If there's a sequel, would it just be Godzilla Zero? I feel like that was a title already. Feels like it should have been. I don't know. Godzilla Minus One. This came out last year. I didn't get to it. I have now seen it. Fancy me. I don't know why I slipped into that voice. Anyways, caught it on Netflix. I'd heard very good things about it. And yeah, this is really good. Um, the first thing that, like, I'll just put this out front. Um, this is easily, by a pretty wide margin, the best human story that's ever been in a Godzilla movie. Now that might seem like a odd way to sell it because, like, it's Godzilla. We're here for Godzilla. And I get that, but for the budget they had for how many scenes Godzilla could actually be in, versus how much of the film is just a drama amongst people, which a lot of Godzilla films, American or Japanese, are. Ultimately, you need something that is more affordable to fill the time between all the expensive effects. And it is usually either some form of drama or occasionally some form of goofy comedy with some of them. But regardless, as far as the non-Godzilla material, this is really good. This is really good. This is set most of it is set shortly after the conclusion of World War II, a year or two after. And that is a really interesting setting. And the main character was meant to be a kamikaze pilot, but who pretended his airplane had malfunctions so that he wouldn't have to go and die. And the trauma around that is enhanced, trauma being, what he was asked to do, what he was expected to do, the war he was in the first place. All that gets enhanced by the fact that where he lands to get it looked at, so it can get repaired and maybe he can go be a kamikaze. Yeah, on that island, Godzilla shows up. Now, initially, Godzilla is big, but like dinosaur scale. He's not towering over skyscrapers initially, but he does show up and he does a hell of a lot of damage. Like, he shows up very early initially in this film, which I think was a very good idea. Normally, the rule of thumb when you don't have a ton of scenes with the monster is hold them till the end. Like, I actually think it's a really good idea to give us a pretty good look at the thing early on and then just sprinkle that at regular intervals, which is what this does. But like that trauma, most of those men died. So he's now got, in addition to this sense of dishonor, the trauma of the war in and of itself, which it's made very clear that that war left both a physical and emotional scar on the land and the people. But now he's got survivor's guilt on top of everything else. Dude's a mess. And he's an interesting protagonist to center things around. And he's got a really solid supporting cast as well. Even the ones who feel a little bit more stock are still just well performed. And they all have really good chemistry with each other, and that helps a lot. Now, I've seen some criticisms of this movie saying that it like glorifies kamikaze pilots. I don't agree that it does really at all. Like, a kamikaze pilot is the main character, and you could argue is the hero of the story, but it's not because he's a kamikaze. Like, the shame that he has is imposed from without. There is a shame. The society he's in has shamed them, but that society doesn't get validated. There is the emphasis that I got was that the fact that he was ever asked to do this messed him up. And then everything that happened after that made it worse. This doesn't feel like it's aggrandizing kamikaze pilots. It feels like it is condemning the very idea that a nation would ever do that to its people. So, I again, there might be some aspects of this that lean more into sort of the nationalism I've heard some criticisms of, and I don't recognize it because I don't understand Japanese culture or history well enough. I'll cop to that. But I do feel like I need to push back on the idea that it aggrandizes kamikaze pilots, because I don't think it does. But anyway, the human story, fantastic. Like I teared up at part of it, which I don't think I've ever done for the humans in a Godzilla movie. But then there's Godzilla himself. Godzilla in this, after the initial appearance, shows up again and is such a horrifyingly powerful thing. I have seen most of, or here's the thing, given its runtime, I have not seen start to finish in its entirety as intended Shin Godzilla. I have seen all the Godzilla scenes of Shin Godzilla, and that Godzilla is pretty horrifying. But it's horrifying for its like bizarreness and like, wait a minute, what is it even doing? This Godzilla is a bit more classic. It does what you expect Godzilla to do, yet it is still, I would say, the scariest Godzilla has been in a very long time because of the way that the scenes are able to communicate the sheer power. Like many, many films try to depict Godzilla as powerful in one way or another, be it incredibly resilient, incredibly strong, whatever it may be. There's something about this thing, the way it moves. There is this almost mechanical sense to it. Like it takes a step and it's very rigid and like it kind of settles in before it takes another step. It doesn't have a super organic movement. And I think it not moving that organically is deliberate. This seems like really purposeful because there's just something slightly offsetting about it. It's not so stiff as to be like, oh, that's like how a robot might move. Like, no, but like it's not quite right. And then the radiation breath, they actually just call it heat beam, I think, in this one. I know the Shin Godzilla depiction of the radiation breath gets a lot of praise, and rightfully so. It's really good, but there is a pure simplicity to depicting the power of that thing's breath in this that I think is unmatched. It's really hard to make what audiences all know is a CGI explosion hit with an impact and feel real and feel destructive and feel powerful. It's real hard. It's not impossible, though, as this movie proves. When that thing goes off, it's just terrifying. And understand, I watched this on a tiny ass screen. I can only imagine how hard this hit in a theater. Oh, dang. So between having a really great human story and a really strong cast and just a fantastically off-putting, impossibly powerful depiction of Godzilla, and it like it's not just the idea of like, oh, Godzilla's powerful. Like we hear that in everything. Like they don't have to say it. You see it. You feel it in this. This is amazing, this thing. I loved this. This was great. Godzilla Minus One. Seems like everybody else has already seen it, but what did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. They all help me out. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here. So you can just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Zubin Mutfullah, Goddess Elida, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Oliver B., Melissa Pedersen, Tarak, The Thing That Goes Joink in the Anime, Gene Forey, Movie Turtle, Ulrich Bogdan, Loki Eris, Melinda Walters, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Trixie Scrabbit, Angry Kasparov, Dave Hall, White Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Pal Barabajagal, Mira G, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. Oh look, you actually get a face this time and not just butts.